Yeah, let's take a closer look. So Ginjiro is going to be running a Calyrex Shadow Rider. I don't believe we've been able to take a look at one as of yet. Regieleki, a Landorus, Zacian, Whimsicott, and Incineroar. And then Raghav is running a Kyogre, Shiraki, oh, love to see it, Incineroar, Zacian, Thundurus, and Grimmsnarl. I mean, that Shiraki could be getting up to some tricks.
Another Shiraki here on the stream. We've had a few already today, and we're going to get another one loose.
Well, interesting leads coming out here for Ginjiro. It's going to be the Regieleki and the Whimsicott. So, again, threatening something like a Tailwind speed advantage here. But on the flip side, Raghav has got the Incineroar and the Kyogre. So, fake out pressures on the field as well. But who would you target, Regieleki or the Whimsicott?
I think if you were going for the fake out, you'd always want to opt to go for the Whimsicott. Now, there is a chance that Ginjiro will maybe possibly max the Regieleki. It is an option here because if he does suspect the fake out in here, he can go for a max and then attack into the Kyogre. But it is very early on in this game, so you've got to be careful when you decide to max and when not to.
And it's very early on to see a switch and a Shiraki out here at the World Championships. Going to be switching in for that Incineroar on Raghav's side as Ginjiro opts to go for a Dynamax. And it's going to be that Regieleki applying a lot of offensive pressure, particularly in the face of that Kyogre. You can deal so much damage with a Max Lightning. And even if Incineroar had stayed on, you can't fake out a Dynamax Pokemon. So I think a really safe position here for Regieleki to be in a position to deal out some big damage. But Raghav's going to be like, hey, I need to get some extra HP if I'm facing down against this Regieleki. And we'll go for the Dynamax on Kyogre. Yeah,
I think if you are staying in against the Regieleki, you've got to try and make a few moves to yourself to kind of give yourself that buffer so you don't get knocked out straight away. And if the Kyogre is holding something like the Assault Vest, we've seen it quite popularly held item on Kyogre today, then you know if you are maxing, you're going to be able to take an attack even from the Regieleki, which is hitting for super effective damage.
Well, Ginjiro is going to go for a Protect and a Tailwind here as Kyogre goes for the Max Geyser into the Max guarding Regieleki here. So no damage, but the Tailwind crucially set up on Ginjiro's side of the field. That will certainly gain the speed advantage, but my issue is the Shiraki now on the battlefield. It could go for anything here, like an Ally Switch, and be so disruptive.
That's the problem. You know, the Ally Switch could come out here and it causes all sorts of mind games, but we're not seeing an Ally Switch. We are seeing a fake Tears, though, and doubled up with the Max Lightning from the Regieleki into the Kyogre.
One hit KO. I mean, I love that synergy there, Lee. Going for the fake Tears, not being afraid of a potential Ally Switch here, and just knowing that you can get rid of that Dynamax Pokemon straight away. What a phenomenal turn there for Ginjiro.
That is a massive turn. The surprise fake Tears coming out, and you know, you feel comfortable with that Assault Vest potentially on the Kyogre there, but not with the fake Tears. That -2 special defense and then boosted by that, you know, the already strong Regieleki is enough to take it down in a huge turn here. And Raghav not getting really any use out of that Dynamax Kyogre there.
That's the thing. Ginjiro's certainly got the momentum now. You've got the speed, you've got the power with that Regieleki, but Raghav still has that Shiraki on the battlefield, and it can still get up to a few tricks. We saw it go for Poltergeist there. Doesn't do too much to the Regieleki, puts it in a slightly precarious situation, but the Zacian is, I think, going to be the key Pokemon. Obviously, if you're Ginjiro, you need to find a way to get rid of that Zacian for later on in the game, but you have to also make sure that you have the utility somewhere on your team to deal with the Shiraki. You can't just let it sit there and kind of throw a party out there.
No, and that's the thing. If you've got answers in the back, then you feel a little bit more comfortable. But if you haven't got the answers in the back, you've got to start kind of surmising what your game plan is to close this game out. Because we've seen games before where Shiraki might be 1 against 4, but it is enough to take your opponent down because they just don't have answers to deal with it.
Oh, an Air Balloon Incineroar. I haven't seen that in a hot minute. That's really interesting to see on the battlefield. And a great switch in here to throw the Intimidate down against that Zacian. Shiraki is using his Wonder Guard ability to not take any damage here, maybe thinking there was going to be that Ally Switch, but once again, Regieleki going to fall victim to the Poltergeist, but is hanging in on there as it comes out of its Dynamax form. But I love the Incineroar coming in. It's normally a Pokemon that has the utility to deal with something like Shiraki, and its ability just helps put Zacian back in its place a bit.
Yeah, and now it gives you the access to that fake out to make, you know, slow down Zacian for another turn and kind of maybe force it out here, because do you really want to leave Zacian on the field now? It's protected. It's going to be susceptible to that fake out now, and it's also neutral attack. The Intrepid Sword boost that it's just got has disappeared with the Intimidate. But you can see there that there was the Predict there for the Ally Switch from Ginjiro's side of the field, and it didn't quite pay off there for him. And the Shiraki is slowly chipping away at Ginjiro's side of the field.
Yeah, and I like this switch here, preserving the Zacian, being able to reset that Intimidate later on in the match, while throwing down an Intimidate on the Incineroar and Ginjiro's side. It's going to go for the fake out into the switch in Incineroar, only dealing a minimal amount of damage. Ashen Ninja does go for that ally switch, so even if it's not going to be too effective in this situation, at least it's been revealed. That's good information. As Regieleki goes for the Rising Voltage, calls it, and it goes into the Incineroar, picks up the KO against it thanks to that electric terrain on the field, just making it super duper powerful. I mean, Regieleki just taking names here.
Yeah, just picking whatever it wants and then removing it from the field. It's a nice call with the ally switch there, especially with that fake out combination, you know, just to make sure that, well, if you go for it, I'm going to punish it. If not, then I've still got the option next turn. I'm not on any immediate effect, because if the Shiraki does attack here, then it might have been a little bit awkward, because the Regieleki now is probably in that range to get picked off by something like a Shadow Sneak. But there's Ashen coming back onto the field now, and Incineroar still in a decent enough position, but switching out to preserve that Intimidate, potentially come back in at a later stage of this game.
Yeah, I like that. Preserve the Incineroar, and I think quite wisely protect that Regieleki. Like you said, there could be a Shadow Sneak, and there we go. It's been revealed by the Shiraki. So now Ginjiro is going to be aware that that could potentially remove the Regieleki from the field. Whimsicott are going to be easily able to take that Sacred Sword. So I think, again, really good switches here, good ball positioning, and I think Ginjiro making sure that that Incineroar is safe is key, because not only can it use the Intimidate against the Zacian, but it has the utility to be able to deal with something like the Shiraki, and you have to make sure that you have that Pokemon, otherwise Shiraki is just going to be able to stall out the team.
Yeah, that's it. And I think now with Whimsicott, depending on its other options, it can set up another Tailwind here, which could give Incineroar that just little bit extra that it needs to, maybe, depending on how it's trained, to get the jump on maybe Zacian, but I don't know. It maybe a more defensively built form. But we do see an encore come out from the Whimsicott here onto that Shiraki, and it will be locking it into that Shadow Sneak.
Yeah, absolutely love that play there. You know, locking into Shadow Sneak, you don't have to worry about any ally switch here. You can see it going for that Shadow Sneak into the opposing Whimsicott, going to deal minimal damage here. So Regieleki able to survive out the turn. The Electric Train's gone. It's going to be a little bit sad about that, but it can still certainly hit hard. I mean, I think if you're Ginjiro here, you know that Raghav can't switch out now. You're down to the last two remaining Pokemon. You need to get that Shiraki dealt with now while it is locked into this encore.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it takes away the worry, the questions about the ally switch now. So you really want to get your Incineroar onto the field fresh, and maybe letting your Regieleki go down is the one thing to do, to allow it a free switch in, get the Intimidate off into the Zacian, and then be able to use these fire-type attacks into things that are going to be hit super effectively. And with the rain gone now as well, it's going to be doing a lot more damage to that Zacian.
This is the perfect situation for Ginjiro here. You've got the Incineroar back on the field here. You know the Zacian's going to be locked in to protect, so you don't have to worry about it going for any of those Sacred Swords. You can just let it sit on the field while Incineroar deals with that Shiraki. And then, you know, once the Encore's worn off on that opposing Zacian, then you can deal with it.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. And I think if you are Ginjiro, you may want to just concentrate down on the Zacian, get rid of that, although we are seeing it locked into the Protect here. But if you get rid of that, then Incineroar has a way easier job against that Shiraki.
Well, Shadow Sneak going to come out into Whimsicott, not get the KO, but a little bit of chip damage here as Incineroar just goes straight up for the Flare Blitz. Going to connect down onto the opposing Shiraki here. Going to be revealing the Focus Sash, so good information to know what item it's carrying. Sometimes we see it with safety goggles, for example, so good to see it here. And that's good information for Ginjiro, knowing that just, you know, one more of those Flare Blitz is going to be able to pick up the KO. Yeah,
and the Encore ending there for the Shiraki. So you would imagine now Whimsicott sticking around on the field is going to go for that Encore once again, lock it into that Shadow Sneak, and allowing the Incineroar to take it down now with a Flare Blitz. And then, like you say, the Zacian's in a really awkward position as well. As long as this Whimsicott sticks around on the field, then it is going to be able to fire off those Encores. But unfortunately, Ally Switch coming out, just going to be able to stop the Encore coming onto the Shiraki right now. Yeah,
Ally Switch getting the priority, but Ginjiro is able to call it here and goes for the Flare Blitz and wipes that Shiraki off the battlefield. So fantastic call there from Ginjiro, knowing that the priority bracket there was just going to, you know, stop Whimsicott from having fun with Encore, but I think it certainly had its parade today. And now you've got this Zacian in a really difficult situation.
Yeah, and now the Encore's gonna definitely come out again and then just lock it up and make it impossible for the Zacian. You're just gonna have to get around these every other turn protects and hope that, you know, there's not too many double protects to have to avoid here to close this one up, as we see the Flare Blitz come out into the Zacian, and not quite enough this turn.
Not quite enough, but I'm sure Incineroar is going to be able to finish the job in the next turn or two. And I mean, normally Shirley's that Pokemon that can be so disruptive and so annoying to deal with, but I love how Ginjiro just kind of flipped the game state here and just went, you know what, Shirley's annoying, but how about my Whimsicott? Let me cause a little bit of disruption on the battlefield, and that's how he was able to get this Game 1 victory.
Yeah, and the options there that we don't really see too often. You know, Fake Tears is one of those options that you're aware of, but you don't generally see it too often. But so useful, especially when paired up with that Regieleki. It has the Life Orb as well, and we saw how devastating it was to that Kyogre, just removing it from the field. Raghav got nothing from his Dynamax with the Kyogre there.
This could be such a critical match for one of our trainers. But the leads are out. It's going to be Regieleki and Whimsicott once again, and opposing on Raghav's side. This time it's Kyogre paired up with Grimmsnarl, so we've got two Prankster Pokemons on the field. Two
Prankster Pokemons here, but one is immune to any Prankster moves from the other one, which, you know, makes it a little bit easier for Raghav to kind of flow around the field. But are we going to see the max turns again, the same max turns again from both players? We are potentially seeing the Regieleki here, max from Ginjiro, so we're going to see that same play again. I don't know if he's aware of this set on the Grimmsnarl, but there's always a threat of Grimmsnarl having Fake Out, so you've got to be aware of that if you are trying that Fake Tears and Max Lightning attack into the Kyogre, because potentially that could get disrupted with something like a Fake Out. But you've also got to consider that there is Light Screen as well, which is a more reliable source to give you a bit more protection.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I love how bold our Pokemon players are being right now, going for these Dynamax choices with the potential for Grimmsnarl to do so many things. You know, it could go for the Scary Face, lower the speed of that opposing Regieleki, but then there could be a Tailwind from the Whimsicott. So many different speed shenanigans, but Regieleki actually going, no, I'm going to go for the Max Guard here. I'm going to let Whimsicott go for the Fake Tears this turn, so I'm in a great position going forward, reducing the special defense of Kyogre by 2 stages there, as Grimmsnarl does set up that Light Screen. So many different intricate plays here when it comes to kind of those stats, whether it's speed, defenses, or anything like that. It's going to be the Max Hailstorm coming out from the Kyogre, though, into the Whimsicott, and I really like this play because it takes Whimsicott right down to its Focus Sash, sets the Hail as well, which is going to deal with Whimsicott at the end of the turn, so it is bye-bye for Whimsicott.
Yeah, great play here from Raghav. You know, he does take the Fake Tears, which is not ideal, but he does get the Light Screen up. But targeting down into what is one of the more problematic Pokemon that he had from that Game 1. Removing it now, it's not an issue going forward. He doesn't have to worry about any more Fake Tears coming out onto his side of the field. He doesn't have to worry about that Encore that was so annoying to deal with. So really smart play from here, predicting that Max Guard from the Regieleki like we saw in that Game 1.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. Maybe the Shirley's hiding in the back, so getting rid of the Whimsicott could be really critical here, but Ginjiro bringing out the Calyrex Shadow Rider. I love to see this. You've got 2 very fast and speedy Pokemon on the battlefield. It's going to be really difficult at this stage.
Yeah, but there's no Tailwind here from Ginjiro's side of the field. That has been taken away. As we see a Scary Face come out from this Grimmsnarl, it is going to reduce the speed of that Calyrex Shadow Rider.
And the Max Lightning is going to come down into the Kyogre. It's not going to be enough to pick up the KO. Light Screen absolutely coming in clutch, able to allow that Kyogre to survive that Max Lightning that we saw be so devastating in that Game 1.
Yeah, and now Kyogre is going to be able to get off this Max Geyser. It's not boosted by the rain, but it's still going to hit extremely hard into that Regieleki. Not quite enough, and you kind of want the Hail to still be on the field. It is being overwritten by the rain now, but that chip damage would have been very useful here as an Astral Barrage comes out from the Calyrex Ice Rider and does take down the Kyogre. But the Kyogre got a lot more out of it this turn. You know, Raghav got a lot more out of the Kyogre this turn than he did that past turn.
Yeah, it definitely got a lot more usage, but I'm really worried about both of these Pokemon on Ginjiro's side. The Regieleki, yes, it's got dwindled HP, but it's still very fast. The Calyrex Shadow Rider is, you know, a little bit slower at this point, but it has got that Grimnay boost as well. So offensively, it's still very scary to deal with. But I think the Grimmsnarl certainly has, you know, that utility to kind of deal with them a little bit and be disruptive. Yeah,
and now you've still got, like you say, the Grimmsnarl is going to be able to put a Scary Face down onto maybe the Regieleki here. So the Zacian can deal with it. But we've already seen Zacians played already this weekend with the Quick Attack. Potentially that is an option. It takes down the Regieleki, and then your Grimmsnarl's left to disrupt further the Calyrex Shadow Rider.
Well, no Quick Attack coming out here. Instead, it's going to be the Scary Face, and I think this is a great play here. Just, you know, weakening the speedy, you know, presence of Ginjiro's Pokemon, allowing that Zacian to have the speed control and go, hey, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to connect down into this Shadow Rider Calyrex and pick up the KO. We know it's not the Focus Sash variant because we saw that on the Whimsicott earlier, so just the sheer power of Zacian able to get that knockout. Regieleki able to fire back with a Max Lightning, and it is in the electric terrain as well, but again, Light Scream being so pivotal to stop these Pokemon being one-hit KO'd.
Yeah, and if you are, Raghav, you know, taking down that Calyrex there is probably the smartest thing if you have got that Shiraki in the back, because getting rid of the Calyrex there is the one of the things that can really put a little bit of a stopper in your tracks.
Yeah, and the Incineroar's going to join for Ginjiro here. Again, with his Air Balloon, absolutely love seeing that item choice on there. We've seen so many Sugar Berries in the past, but I believe on this broadcast we've seen a Focus Sash Incineroar, now we've seen an Air Balloon. I love this creativity, and it's in a good position where, you know, it's done that Intimidate on the Zacian. Zacian's at very limited HP, and you have the potential to go for a Fake Out now. Yeah,
and the Fake Out is what's going to be really useful here for Ginjiro to disrupt that side of the field, almost force that Zacian into protecting because of the threat from a knockout. Regieleki is on its last legs, though, because the next attack will take it down. Even if it doesn't knock out an opponent, the Life Orb Recall will knock itself out. So you want to get the most out of this next turn.
Yeah, and Raghav once again, you know, retreating that Zacian, preserving it, wanting to maybe reset that Intimidate for later on in the game, and bringing the Incineroar in to throw an Intimidate down against both of Ginjiro's Pokemon here. We're going to see the Regieleki go for the Rising Voltage again in the electric terrain, connects down onto the Grimmsnarl that's still sitting on the field, but not for much longer. It does get KO'd, and now Raghav is going to be forced to bring that Zacian in from the back as Regieleki gets KO'd. But this is the thing, you've got Incineroar versus a Zacian and an opposing Incineroar that's going to have utility for Fake Out in the next turn.
Yeah, and you kind of wanted to see a parting shot then maybe into that slot, but going for the Flare Blitz, it makes sense just to get damage onto that Zacian. But like you say, Raghav managed this endgame very well and put it down. No Shiraki here, bringing maybe more reliable Pokemon for this matchup, and in a good position now to take advantage of that Intrepid Sword boost it's got. It doesn't have to worry about the Intimidate, and even though it is very low health, if you can utilize the Fake Out here from your own Incineroar, you're going to get a free attack off, and that's going to be enough potentially to close this game up for you.
Yeah, and you see the forfeit going in there. So we're going to be a game apiece and pushing to a game 3 here in Swiss round 6. So the next game will determine which of these two players is going to be advancing to day 2 at this stage in the competition. The other person's not knocked out by any means, but just at this point, someone is already guaranteed to make that day 2.
Yeah, and a very, very tense situation going into this next one. 1-1, what a set we've had so far. And, you know, Raghav, it didn't look good for him going into that game 2. I thought, how are you going to adjust here? But he adjusted so well. The Grimmsnarl adjustment was exactly what he needed.
It's really difficult because you kind of want to preserve it and keep it safe in the back, but then leading with it's so crucial. You can play so many mind games. But Raghav's going to be leading with the Grimmsnarl and the Zacian. So Kyogre's not out in the leads this time. It's maybe kind of going, I think there might be a Regieleki, but there's not. Ginjiro's gone for a Zacian as well, paired up with that Whimsicott. So I love this board state, Lee. We've got 2 Zacians and 2 really disruptive prankster Pokemon.
Yeah, and both the prankster Pokemon that we've got on opposite sides of the field don't like sitting in front of a Zacian.
Exactly.
So I like the adaptation from Ginjiro here because he has brought the Zacian to potentially deal with that Grimmsnarl, like how Raghav dealt with the Whimsicott in that game too. So if you can remove the Grimmsnarl early on, if you are Ginjiro, then it really makes things a lot easier. You don't have to worry about that speed control, the disruption, or the support through the screens going forward.
Well, speaking of screens, Reflect is up on the battlefield for Raghav here in the face of the Zacian that is going to go for the Behemoth Blade here. So jumping up to the sky and finding its mark down onto the opposing Zacian here. Dealing a significant chunk of damage, but that Reflect certainly paying off as Whimsicott goes for a Dazzling Gleam. So just getting a little bit of chip on the Zacian, but critically about 1/3 of damage onto that opposing Grimmsnarl, putting it in a dangerous position going forward. It's going to be very vulnerable to one of those Behemoth Blades. The Behemoth Blade, however, is being returned. You know, it's just one Zacian going into another one, and it still deals a really significant chunk.
Yeah, just going after each of the Zacians here, and it does make sense because of how much of a threat these Pokemon are. Thinking, well, I can remove, say, the Grimmsnarl whenever I want, really. I don't mind the Reflect going up this turn, so I'll go for the opposing Zacian, and probably the same kind of train of thought from Raghav here, just to remove the opposing restricted, and then if you still, you know, got your more powerful restricted in the back with your support option intact, then you're sitting in a way better position going into the rest of the game.
Whimsicott going to click that Tailwind button and boost up the speed, making sure that the Zacian and any future Pokemon are going to be nice and speedy on Ginjiro's side of the field. But, we see the reveal from this Grimmsnarl. It's going to be the Babiri Berry. Now, this is a really interesting choice. I've seen it rise in popularity. You know, Grimmsnarl dropping like clay to pick up a berry so it can survive these Steel-type attacks. But that Dazzling Gleam paid off so much that the Zacian is able to get the KO despite the Babiri Berry trying to weaken that Steel-type attack.
Still going down, and the Babiri Berry just not enough there. Like you say, the Dazzling Gleam just enough to put it in range, even through the berry to pick up the knockout. And you do remove that support option, and that is huge for Ginjiro there, because the Grimmsnarl was so disruptive in that game too. Now it's gone, and you've still got access to your Whimsicott here. That's huge, because you've got your Tailwind set up. You bring in something like the Regieleki now that we're seeing him do. He's got access to that fake Tears combination that we saw from game 1.
I can honestly feel the adrenaline building right now, because yes, if you're Ginjiro, you've just lost your Zacian, but it gives you the free switch into this Regieleki, and now we've got this game 1 and 2 situation again. Regieleki and Whimsicott against that Kyogre, and Zacian, you know, sitting in a pretty dangerous position. I mean, this is where Whimsicott can play those mind games again. Tailwind's already up, so we can just go straight away for something like that fake Tears with a follow-up from Regieleki, because there's been no Dynamax on Ginjiro's side.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, you know. You've got to be a bit careful with the Zacian still. It can do a lot of damage to either Pokemon on Ginjiro's side of the field, and this could be a bait here from Ginjiro, from Raghav here, as we see the Zacian switch out for that Shiraki.
That Shiraki just getting up to so many tricks. It switches in. Now, I wonder if Ginjiro has fallen into the trap, though. We've seen some good predictions around Shiraki in game 1, but this is game 3. It could be a whole different game.
Yeah, if you target it into that Zacian, you're fine, but if you target it into that Kyogre, it's not a happy ending this turn.
Well, Regieleki is Dynamaxed up. It's going to be looking to apply some strong pressure, but it goes actually for a max guard, okay? We've seen Regieleki do this a couple of times, so it's just holding back a little bit as Whimsicott does go for the fake Tears and connects down onto that Shiraki.
Okay, so into that Kyogre slot, and we've seen this play multiple times here, just to kind of set that up, protect the Regieleki, and then unleash it the next turn. So we know this next turn, it can go for an attack into the Zacian, but you've got to worry about the big issue is the ally switch here.
Yes.
And do you guess right? If you guess at all, or do you think, I'm just going to ignore the fact that ally switch is there, and I'm just going to attack into the Zacian? Sometimes the best way to go about it, but also sometimes not the best way. It's a real mind game, and it can cost you games. We've seen it happen many times before.
We certainly have, and I think Ginjiro is one apiece for predicting the ally switch and getting it right and not getting it right. So we'll have to see what trick Ninja's going to get up to. I mean, the Incineroar switch in here is great. Once again, you intimidate the opposing Zacian, and you can apply pressure to both of these opposing Pokemon.
Yeah, and we just see the Zacian go for the protect here. So I'm going to utilize probably something like the Poltergeist on the Shiraki here, but you are going to see some damage onto the Zacian. It is quite a lot of damage through that protect still, and now Ginjiro setting himself up where he's got this next turn potentially go fake out, stop the Zacian attacking this next turn, and kind of go into that target. But you've still got to worry every turn. This Ninja's on the field, is it going to go for the ally switch or not, and can I guess if it does and get the slot right?
Exactly, and particularly when Zacian's on such little HP, you know, really anything Regieleki or Incineroar are going to do to it is going to get the KO. But if the ally switch has come into effect, it might free up the Zacian to be able to pick up a KO against the Regieleki with something like a Behemoth Blade before it's able to get the KO on the Zacian. That said, you know, Regieleki and Incineroar, both good Pokemon. If you want to predict something like the ally switch, you might just target into either Pokemon, and then no matter what happens with the ally switch, you might be able to get a KO, but it all depends on the speed if that Zacian's able to pick up the Regieleki.
That is it, and we've seen an airstream, a max airstream come up from the Regieleki into that Shiraki. It is going to take it down to its sash, but no ally switch coming out here. Huge reveal here from Ginjiro's Regieleki as he goes into that Shiraki.
Regieleki on the world stage doing some incredible things, getting the speed boost up as well, and just being able to have a move to hit against it with the follow-up from Incineroar Snarl getting the KO. What amazing synergy from Ginjiro here. Nobody expected the Regieleki to be able to get that damage down, and then the follow-up, oh, it's amazingly.
And the Behemoth Blade now going to come out. Is it going to be enough to pick up the knockout onto the Regieleki? It is neutral. It's not enough, and the Regieleki still able to hang on now. So the Tailwind pittering out as well as that Reflect on Raghav's side of the field. But what a play to get rid of the Shiraki. You worry every single turn when Shirani's active. You think, how am I going to get rid of this? And, you know, Ginjiro's dealt with it perfectly, revealing that max airstream, getting the speed boost for the Incineroar as well, which is always nice. Maybe not going to be that beneficial against these two Pokemon on Raghav's side of the field, but like you said before, the Zacian's on such low health now, it's going to be difficult to kind of make any momentum swing here. But Raghav does have one thing in the bag left, and that is his turns to Dynamax, and it probably is going to be that Kyogre. It's his only option right now.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I'm still in shock from that Regieleki. I mean, I love the play so much because even if that had been the ally switch there with the Life Orb, I think the Max Airstream would have still picked up the KO against that opposing Zacian. Ginjiro has all the utility to switch in that Whimsicott. I think Regieleki does deserve a little bit of a break at this point. It's certainly been doing so well in this set. And Raghav, to no surprise, is going to use that Dynamax while the Kyogre is at full HP to double up that HP stat and just try and apply some pressure. But interesting to see the Regieleki actually leave in the face of, you know, this Kyogre on the battlefield.
Yeah, and I think it's a good play. If you're suspecting the Max Geyser to come in here and potentially something like a Behemoth Blade, the double up into this slot will be problematic. But if you are able to outspeed that Kyogre with your Incineroar, you're going to get a parting shot off potentially, or just a Flare Blitz into that Zacian and remove it from the field. And then you've got something like the Fake Tears and then that Regieleki combination to hit that Kyogre for super effective damage.
But Whimsicott's not going to be hanging around. There's the double up from Raghav into the Whimsicott, does remove it from play. So we'll know Regieleki will be rejoining the battlefield very shortly as Incineroar goes for a Flare Blitz in the rain, however, but it is going to be enough to pick up the KO against that Zacian, just leaving this Kyogre against a Regieleki and an Incineroar. I mean, we know that Max Geyser can deal with both the Pokemon at this point in time, but I want to know how much damage in electric terrain that Regieleki is going to be able to deal. And, you know, seeing, as we know it has rising voltage, it's just going to do so much to this poor Kyogre. Is
it enough to take it down, though? That's the big question, because, you know, you can't afford to protect the Regieleki here. It's got so low health, you know, even a Max Geyser through the protect at this point is going to knock it out. So you have to go for the attack and hope that it is enough.
Ooh.
Not quite enough to take it down, but you can't not attack into it this turn as well. So it really all falls down to that Incineroar. It has got Snarl, though, so if you go for Snarl here, is the reduction in that special attack going to be enough for you to at least survive the next turn? I don't know. I would question it quite a lot, especially with the item choice. We know the Air Balloon is there on the Incineroar. It's not got a Pasha Berry or anything like that to really give it a boost that you need, but we don't know how it's been trained. It might be able to take it. It would be very surprising, though. Has the rain stopped, though? The perfect timing for the rain to stop. So this Incineroar might be able to get this one out, but the rain will be set back up again, unfortunately, this last turn.
Oh no, Incineroar absolutely drops to the Max Geyser, meaning Raghav will be able to win this set 2-1 and advance to day 2. I mean, what an amazing turnaround at the end of that game 3.
Incredible turnaround. I thought the whole time, I was like, it down and out. It didn't look like he had a chance to come back into it. But then utilizing the Kyogre at the right time and just really making the right plays every single point when he maxed that Kyogre. And, you know, that shows how powerful Dynamax really is, you know.